Hey there, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if it is your first time here. If it's your first time here, hi, my name is Erin. I make videos about sewing, primarily garments at this point, but I do also quilt and do some other little crafty bits. I cross stitch and knit occasionally and talk about those things. I release videos every Wednesday and Friday. My Friday videos are #FridaySew, so a weekly sewing catch up where I just talk about what I've been up to. If you find yourself enjoying this video, I hope you consider subscribing before you leave. And to all of my regular viewers, welcome back. Today's video is about t-shirts, a lot of t-shirts. I found myself needing to replace pretty much all of the t-shirts in my closet just because they were worn out in various ways. So I decided to try out 7 different t-shirt patterns, and today I'm here to tell you all about them. I have my laptop. I made a spreadsheet of everything I want to talk about. So this is going to be, I think, a pretty long video. So I will do my best to make very detailed chapters. I will at least have a chapter for each shirt, but then hopefully I can kind of break it down a little more within each mini review by what I'm talking about. First thing I'm going to do is list all of them so that if you are just curious about a certain one, I will pop up a picture of it so you know generally what it looks like, and then you can click to that specific part of this video. My vision for this video is not necessarily that you sit down and watch it all in one go. Definitely do that if you want to, I would love that. But I'm picturing it more as kind of a resource or a reference. If you're looking to make a t-shirt at some point, you can come back and look at it and kind of remember what I said about it. So the t-shirts I'm going to talk about today are the Ellie Mac Oversized Tee, which is exactly what it sounds like, an oversized tee with a lot of options. The Closet Core t-shirt, which is a boxy classic crew neck. Simplicity 9596 View C, which is just a boxy knit top. It is cropped. French Navy Stellan tee, which is a very classic tee, slightly boxy and cropped. It has a curved hem, which is really nice. The ABB Patterns Mandy Boat Tee, which is a boat tee with a boxy fit. And the Love Notions Classic Tee, which is a classic tee with multiple neckline variations. And then the Copper Creek Patterns Anything But Basic Tee, which is pretty much just a standard fit t-shirt. So that is the basics of all of them that I'm going to be talking about. Then I am going to give some pattern information. I'm going to talk about neckline options, sleeve length options, hem lengths, and then any other options that they have. The size range, I'm going to talk about what size I made and then give you the ranges for the full bust, waist, and hips. The cost, a lot of these are free. The format, and then some more information about the format if it's a PDF. The recommended fabrics, and then my thoughts on the instructions. And then I'll obviously also show you what I made and what I think of what I made. The limitations of this study, as it were, or the fabrics. I used a lot of a rayon spandex jersey that I got on sale at Hobby Lobby in multiple different colors quite a while ago. So it's been languishing in my stash waiting to be made up. And I finally did use quite a bit of it for these t-shirts. So with it being such a drapey fabric, it impacts how things look, obviously. So that is kind of one of the biggest limitations, is that I used that same fabrication for most of these, but I will talk about what I made it out of as I go through each shirt. A few notes on how I did this to try and make everything as scientific as possible was I used the collar piece or the neckband pattern piece for all of them. The most pristine way to do it is to measure the circumference of the neck yourself and then do some math. Can kind of vary based on your fabric choice, but about 80% of that, and figure it all out yourself. But in testing these patterns, I wanted to see if I can just print it off or open up the envelope and immediately be able to use it without having to do a lot of extra effort. It's a t-shirt. I don't want to have to be measuring the neck on all of my t-shirts as I make them. So just a note, I used all of the pattern pieces the way they were given. I did not grade between sizes on any of them, and I did not change any of the lengths or anything unless it specifically told me to, based on like my height or something. And even in some cases I didn't change it because I didn't want to. So these are pretty much straight off the printer or out of the packet as they were drafted. Okay, if you guys are ready, let's get into these reviews. We're starting with the Ellie Mac Oversized Tee, which is exactly what it sounds like, but it is an oversized tee with quite a lot of options. The neckline options are crew neck hooded, or it calls it a boat neck. I put sort of in parentheses because I guess it is a boat neck for an oversized tee, but to me it's more of like a one shoulder type deal. It's just a very, very wide neck, more than what I would think of as a traditional boat neck. That boat neck you can do banded or faced, so you have even more options there. For sleeve length options, it can be short or long, and then the long sleeve can be either hemmed or cuffed. Hem length options, they have multiple. So there's short cropped, long cropped, regular, and tunic, and then they do have a cropped length that also has a band. So you have short cropped, long cropped, banded crop. So a lot of good cropped options. And for other options, you can do a kangaroo pocket. This is for the cropped versions only, or a drawstring at the bottom, which is also only for the cropped versions. The size range is the largest out of any of these. Ellie Mac has a great size range. It goes from extra small to a 7 extra large. I made a 1 extra large. The full bust range is 29 to 67 inches. The waist range is 23.5 to 63 inches. And the hip range is 33.5 to 72 inches. Definitely the largest size range out of any of the shirts I'm going to talk about. Some others come close. This is definitely the largest one. This is not a free pattern. It does normally cost $10. You are getting a lot of value in it with all those options, but it is $10. I did get it for $3.50 as part of a weekly sale. They take a couple of patterns every week and put them on sale for $3.50. It was pretty recent, maybe a month ago or so, so I don't know the next time they'll have it as an available option. But if you sign up for the newsletter or email notifications from Ellie Mac, you'll know what their weekly options are every week. They do also do other sales. I think they have like a Father's Day sale going on right now for 30% off, so they have pretty regular sales. In terms of the format, it is PDF only, no hard copy options, but they give you a projector file, an at-home printout in both letter and A4. All of these, when I say at home, are letter and A4. I double checked. And an A0 copy shop file. It does have layers. So when I say layers in a PDF, I mean you can select just the size or sizes that you want to print. You don't have to print them all out. One of the really big benefits of this to me, well, two. You can very clearly just cut your size, and it saves paper. You can pare down what you need to print and save on ink and paper. And it saves on ink in general. It has no cut edges. By this, I mean literally what it says. You don't have to cut off the edges when you are putting the PDF together. You just overlap them and then tape or glue. There's a printing guide. So this, I'm going to explain all these terms, I guess, in this first section. There is a printing guide, which means it tells you for whatever options you want, which pages you have to print. For the recommended fabric, it recommends 50% 4-way stretch, medium weight knit fabric with good recovery. And then it does have a description about how you can make it look more or less structured based on what fabric you choose, which, like I kind of mentioned earlier, was important in all of these t-shirts because a lot of them look less structured, which is what I like in the look that I tend to go for if I'm buying t-shirts, so I'm fine with it. But it's drapier and looser. This is that rayon spandex jersey from Hobby Lobby. This is my Ellie Mac Oversized Tee. I will say the biggest thing that was impacted by this fabric choice is the neckband. I've worn it quite a lot, and just I think with the width of it and the fabric choice, it is already starting to kind of dip out like that. For the instructions, Ellie Mac instructions are, in my opinion, really good. they use photos, but the right and wrong side of the fabric is very clear. They don't use any yarn dyed or anything like that. That makes it difficult to distinguish. They're very clear about the right and the wrong side. And they draw in the stitch lines almost with like clip art or something. So it's really easy to see where you're supposed to be stitching and how it's supposed to go. The hem allowance is given in the instructions at the end, which I really like. I don't like when it's only marked on the pattern piece, because then I have to pull out, I either have to remember or I have to write it down somewhere, or I have to pull out the pattern piece and look again, which after I've cut, I usually put the pattern pieces away. Especially if I'm doing bulk cutting a lot of projects at once, I am putting those pattern pieces away after they are used. So I really appreciate it when the hem allowances are included in the pattern instructions. Now let's look at my shirt. I have been including clips of it as I've been talking about it, but I just want to point out a couple things here in person. So this is my Ellie Mac Oversized Tee. Like I said, the neckband is having some issues, and it does look a little starbursty on the hanger, but in person on the body, there are no issues. So it is definitely the right length of pattern piece for the neckband. It has drop shoulders, but then because it is intentionally drafted to be oversized, the sleeve is really short and still hits pretty much above the elbow on me. So I like that it's not just a really, really big shirt. That is literally a couple sizes too big for me. It gives that look and definitely has that comfort, but intentionally. Other than that, nothing too crazy. I did top stitch all of my neckbands, and then I used either a zigzag or a twin needle for all of my hemming. It is already looking a little pilly. I don't know if you can tell that in person. I've been wearing it a lot. It is a sleep shirt for me now. I will say with the drop shoulder, it feels a little oversized and sloppy. That's not really the right way to say it. It's just very casual, I guess, in my opinion. And I mean, that's saying a lot for a t-shirt to feel very casual. So, I don't think I'll be making it a lot as a wear outside of the house t-shirt, but it is a phenomenal sleep t-shirt in my. I did the long cropped length and it hits me at the high hip, which I really, really like. So I love the length of it. And then for the neckband, I just did the crew neck. I looked at doing the boat neck, but then I realized that it's kind of like not what I would consider to be a true boat neck. It's that just kind of like off the shoulder. It makes me think of Flashdance. That's all I can equate it to, is like someone cut into the t-shirt and it's just an oversized gym shirt or workout dance shirt in that way. That makes any sense? I don't consider it a true boat neck, but that's just me. So this is my Ellie Mac Oversized Tee. I will definitely make more of these for loungewear, sleepwear, wear around the house wear. Next up, we have the Closet Core tee or core t-shirt. It's actually what I'm wearing. I made it out of this, the same rayon spandex blend from Hobby Lobby. It is a free pattern. Let me just go through the spreadsheet. It is a boxy classic crew neck. The only neckline option is this crew neck. It does have two sleeve options, short or 3/4 length. I love a 3/4 length sleeve, so I'm really happy they have that. The hem length options are semi-cropped or hip height. Some of the other options they have are you can do a back, neck, and shoulder binding along the seam on the inside, and you can do an optional pocket on the front, which is a cute option. I thought in this fabric it would be a little too weighty and saggy and not look great, but I think in a cotton jersey it would be really good. The size range is kind of split up into two size ranges. They have 0 to 20, which is drafted for a B cup, and then they have 14 to 32, which is drafted for a D cup, and does include a bust dart for improved fit. The size I made is a 16, and then going through the measurement ranges, the full bust range is 31 to 60, with it being split up into 31 to 46 inches for 0 to 20, 42 to 60 inches, 14 to 32. The waist range overall is 24 to 53, and then the hip range overall is 33 to 63 inches. Like I said, it is a free pattern. It is PDF only, It has at home or A0 options, no projector. There are layers in the pattern, which is such a great benefit, but it does not have no cut edges. So you do have to do some trimming when you're putting it together. It does not have a printing guide, but it's really not necessary because it only has the one neckband or neck option, has 2 sleeve lengths, so it's not that terrible to have to print out the longer sleeve, or you can look at the file before you print it and make sure you don't print the longer sleeve part. I think that's what I did. And other than that, there's not that many options. With the Ellie Mac one, it makes sense to have a printing guide because, you know, do you need the hood or not? Do you need the kangaroo pocket or not? Do you need what length? Is the, you know, tunic length is a lot different than a short cropped length, so you could save a lot of paper there. But with this one, it doesn't really make sense to have a printing guide. Recommended fabric, at least 30% crosswise stretch, and it does talk about how you will change the look of it with what type of knit fabric you choose. So I do really like when the instructions have that discussion in there, because if it's not something you're thinking of or if it's not something you know about, it is good to kind of clue you in to how you will change the look. Like this is very drapey, but a cotton jersey would obviously be a lot more structured and would change it a lot. The instructions include some really good tips for sewing with knits. A lot of these do include some tips for sewing with knits, but I thought this section was especially good. It actually had like a little diagram of different types of zigzags to use in different scenarios. So like what dimensions you want for your zigzag if you're using it for hemming versus for putting the seams together or basting. And I thought that was a useful little discussion. It uses diagrams for the instructions, and the seam allowance is regularly repeated in the instructions, which I love and appreciate and found very, very helpful because I was making so many of these and the seam allowances did vary between mostly 1/4 inch and 3/8 of an inch, but then I did make a big 4 pattern that was 5/8 of an inch. So it was really nice to have the seam allowance repeated in there to remind me so that I didn't just get into like autopilot and go. Obviously, it relies on you looking at the instructions to see the seam allowance, but I like that it was repeated and not just, you know, somewhere at the top of the instructions. One other nice thing that it included in the instructions was pressing directions, like which direction you want to press the seam. In general, you want to press seams towards the back and then away. Like for the sleeve, you usually want it to be toward the sleeve, not toward the bodice. But it is nice, especially if this is one of your first t-shirts, it's nice to just be reminded which direction to press things and to be told. And another thing that I thought was really cool in there was it differentiates in a couple spots between what to do if you are using a zigzag stitch on a sewing machine or a serger. So for example, when it was talking about putting the neckband together and sewing the seam to make it a circle, it says if you're using a zigzag stitch, press it open, and then if you're using a serger, just press it to one side, which is just kind of a nice thing to include in there for people that are new or want the reminder. And hem allowances are included in the instructions, which I love. Let's talk about mine. So, like I said, this is that rayon spandex jersey. This little decorative stitching I did with variegated rainbow thread because there were little holes. I don't even know if I can see them anymore. Little one there and then one on the back that I did not make. It was in the fabric. I cut it out and I realized after I'd cut it out that they were there, but they were so close to the neckline stuff, you know, it wasn't in the middle of the shirt. I decided to just try to go with it. And at first I just patched it with a little piece of white patching stuff, iron-on patching, but you could then just really see that. So I put a little bit of interfacing along the neckband to stabilize it a bit, and then did a decorative stitch in variegated thread that I think is really, really fun and definitely something I will do again in the future. The sleeve length is really good. I like how open the sleeves are. I could probably stand to go down a size, especially in this drapey of a fabric, but I do really like it. And then I did the cropped length, which pretty much all of these, when they say cropped, it's high hip, which is more cropped than a standard t-shirt, but not a crop top, just to clarify. The next pattern we're going to talk about is Simplicity 9596 View C. This is our only big 4 edition or member of this lineup. I do sew a lot of Big Four patterns, but I don't have any basic t-shirts, really standalone patterns. So this is actually in another pattern that has some dresses. But it is a boxy knit top. The only neckline option is a crew neck. The only sleeve option is a short grown on sleeve. It is cropped. This, I would say, is more cropped than I still don't think I would call it a crop top like you would think of when you hear crop top, but it is more cropped than the other cropped t-shirts, if that makes sense. The other options for this, I just included that in the packet there's a pull-on woven dress with or without sleeves in 2 lengths, and I am going to make that dress hopefully this summer, so I will have the whole ensemble. The size range is extra small to extra large. I made a large. The bust range goes from 30.5 to 46 inches, waist range 23 to 39 inches, and the hip range is 32.5 to 48 inches. Now the cost, this is definitely the most expensive one. Full price at simplicity.com, it is $22.95, but if you live in the US near Joann's, they have the pattern sales every couple of weeks. Simplicity goes on sale. Prices are fluctuating right now, but you could get it for at most probably $3.99 right now. So there's definitely no need to pay $22.95, but that is what it's listed as on simplicity.com. It's actually out of stock, and they don't have a PDF of it. So I don't know if it's totally out of print, but it's still on the website. So I'm really not sure. It is hard copy only. Like I said, they have not converted it to a PDF. So none of the stuff about formatting applies. Recommended fabric, stretch knits only, such as jersey and interlock. They do have the pick a knit rule on the back of the envelope, and for that they specify 50% stretch. I hate a 5/8 inch seam on the serger. Like I hate sewing a 5/8 inch seam on a serger, but that is the standard Big Four seam allowance, so that is what it has. Not everywhere, but your main seam, the side seams are 5/8 inch, and the shoulder seam was also 5/8 inch. It uses a smaller seam allowance for the neckband. I believe it was 3/8 of an inch. And one thing that was different with this pattern than any of the others was for the neckband piece, it had dots as one of the markings, and that was meant to align with the shoulder seam. So you did not have to quarter the neckband or the neck line at all. You just lined up those, and it worked. It fit just fine using that rather than quartering. The hem allowance is only on the pattern pieces. I'm just gonna leave it at that. How hard is it to put it in the instructions? It also does not repeat the 5/8 inch seam allowance information, which is normal for Big Four patterns. It has like 5/8 inch seam allowance assumed unless otherwise, and then it does, when you're doing the neckband, does specify in like bold and italic or something like that, very attention getting, that it's a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So for this one, I have a navy blue, and this is more of a tissue weight jersey. Really, really soft, pretty sheer. I will say this neckband turned out to be very thin. I struggled a lot with this one, to be kind of honest. It's pretty uneven in the back, but part of it was also just the fabric being so thin and pliable. Like I said, it does have grown on sleeves, so it's really easy to cut out and put together. Made it a little harder to use my fabric well, because you cut it on the fold, so you need this much fabric all the way across. So I actually had to, instead of being able to get the front and back bodice out of, how am I trying to say this, selvage to selvage, usually I can like fold it in, and then do front bodice, back bodice, or kind of like that. I had to fold it in on one side, do front bodice, back bodice. So I used up more length of my fabric cut than I normally would have to for a t-shirt, but then I didn't have to use up all the extra for sleeves. I guess you win some, you lose some, it balances out. I said it's a crew neck. It's a little bit wide. I would call it like a wide crew neck. And then it is pretty cropped. but really, really lightweight, really nice, very easy to put together. All the notches and everything lined up perfectly well, just fine, no issues. Next up, we have the French Navy Patterns Stellan tee. It is a classic tee, slightly boxy and cropped with a curved hem. The only neckline option is a crew neck. The sleeve length option is just one. It's short, but proportionally longer is how they have it listed. And they do say that it's very cute rolled, which I have not done with mine. My fabric doesn't really lend itself to being rolled, but I do want to, I think, do a cotton jersey or cotton spandex jersey in the future that has a little more body to it, a little more structure that I can roll, because I think I'll like that look. Hem length options, just slightly cropped, hits me around the hip. Other options, there is a neck and shoulder binding. Is it? No, just a neck binding piece included. The other one on the core tee was a neck and shoulder binding. This one is just the neck. Size range is A through N. So it is one of those companies that instead of using numerical sizing has decided to use alphanumeric. Is that what it's called? Alphanumeric? Alphabetical. There is a note that they're working to expand the size range, not only of this pattern, but of all the patterns. So that is cool. I made a size G. The full bust range is 31.5 to 59.5. Waist is 25 to 52.5 inches. Hip is 34.5 to 62.5 inches. It is free. There's a note in there that she would appreciate a donation if you can give it, and it would help her expand the size range. That's where I got that information from. But it is a free pattern. It's PDF only, gives you projector, A0, and print at home. It has layers. It does not have no cut edges, so some trimming is required. And there's no printing guide, but it's not necessary. Recommended fabric, light to medium weight knits with moderate stretch. So very open-ended, not a lot of hand holding in terms of what fabric will work best for it. My notes on the instructions, I have great, in all caps, great instructions. It uses diagrams, it gives pressing directions, recommends stitching the collar with a sewing machine, not serging it, stitching the neckband together. So that she says, I keep saying she, I'm assuming it's a female, but they say that you can then press it open and reduce bulk. I have to say I did all of the rest with the serger and I don't think it was ever that bulky, but I did use pretty thin fabrics. So one thing in general that I liked is that they give a lot of personal recommendations. So it feels like sewing with a friend. Like when it talks about putting the binding on the back, it says like, I used a straight stitch and haven't had any issues with it breaking over time, and just kind of like lends their own experience and their own opinion on it. So it does feel kind of like a friend is just telling you what they did with the pattern. Which I really, really liked. The instructions were really, really good, but not too verbose at all. They were thorough, but not overwhelming in volume. The one I made is a green of that rayon spandex jersey from Hobby Lobby. I love the curved hem. Big, big fan of the curved hem. One thing I really liked about the instructions that none of the others had you do was they had you sew a basting stitch 3/4 of an inch from the raw edge, which is the hem allowance, and then use that to guide your folding when you were pressing it up to then hem it, which is something I actually do a lot, especially in woven fabrics. I use that trick all the time, especially if I'm also doing a like a narrow hem, because it gives you something to fold to and then fold over. So I do that a lot, even if the instructions don't tell me to. I had never done it on a t-shirt before, and so I really liked doing that. It helped so much with the curved hem. It also talks about using your steam to help the curve fit well and shrink up a little bit. Like I said, lots of really good tips as you were going through the instructions. You didn't have to click anywhere else to get the good tips. They were just right there. So I really, really liked that. Really like this shirt. The only thing that I wish it had given more information on or more tips on was this neck binding. I ended up having to baste it twice. Basically, I had to baste it that first time so that I could go back to the right side and stitch in the ditch. And then when I folded it over, I basted it also to make sure that I caught it all, and then stitched along it evenly as I could, because it was not even doing it from the wrong side. So that it was not given in the instructions, but I did find myself having to do that to make it look neat. Our next shirt is the one that I was most excited for, I think, and the one that I will not be making again, which is a little bit heartbreaking, but it is the Tee Patterns Mandy Boat Tee. It is a boat tee with a boxy fit. This has what I would call a traditional boat neck. Now, it does not have a band at all. It has you fold over the raw edge of the neck and then top stitch. The sleeve length options are 3/4 length or long. It only has one hem length, which comes basically to the hip or kind of the top of the thigh. No other options. The sizes are sizes 1 through 4, which equates to extra, extra small to a 3XL. I made the size 3, which is a large, extra large, right in line with all of the other patterns I made. Full bust range is 32 to 45 inches. Waist range is 27 to 41 inches, and hip range is 36 to 49 inches. It is a free PDF. They do sell a hard copy for 18 Australian dollars. For the format, it is, like I said, PDF or hard copy. It has A0 and print at home, no projector file. There are no layers and there are no no-cut edges. You actually have to do quite a bit of trimming. There is no printing guide, but it's not necessary. The recommended fabric is two-way stretch cotton, wool, or viscose jerseys or knits with elastane, lycra, or spandex content. So basically anything stretchy is what I got out of that. In terms of the instructions, I love how they did the neckline. I think it is a great finish. I think it's really polished, looks really good. I will definitely be using that technique and that way of doing it again. They use pictures in the instructions, and both sides are very similar because the fabric is yarn dyed, but they do label the right and wrong side with text. It makes it a little difficult because you can't just glance at the instructions, and if you get confused for a second, you can't just look over and clarify. You have to then look and either look very closely, because with yarn dyed, you can see the right and wrong side of the knitting because of how knitting is, but you have to look really closely at that, or find where it says right or wrong side, and it's in, I think, like black kind of small text. So a little hard to differentiate in that way, but I didn't feel like that impacted my ability to execute the pattern at all. The hem allowance is in the instructions, so I did enjoy that. I thought the instructions were good and it was a good sew. I just don't like the fit on me. The sleeves are very tight. Very, very tight. That's all I have to say on that. And then the body of it is very, very, very boxy. And this is a cotton spandex jersey. It fits their fabric requirements. Like I said, I love how they have you do the neck. I think it is phenomenal. But the fit of the bodice of the t-shirt is very boxy, and in this fabric, it just hangs weird. It looks almost like I have a cape on. I feel like the way it hangs off of my back, it kind of just comes out instead of draping better over the body. Maybe in something more like this rayon spandex jersey would flow better and drape better, but I still don't want to make this again because the sleeves are so flippin' tight, like uncomfortably tight. And then you have a huge juxtaposition with the boxiness and oversizedness of the bodice. That's just not something I like. It feels uncomfortable to me to have one area really tight and another area really, really loose. So I will not be making this pattern again, but I love the way they have you do the neck. I will definitely do that again. Second to last pattern. This is the Love Notions Classic Tee. It is a classic tee. The neckline options are crew, scoop, or V-neck. This is the only one I did that had a V-neck option. The sleeve length options are short, elbow, 3/4 length, or long, and it just has one hem length, which is standard, like at your hip pretty much. Well, not high hip, your normal hip, kind of top of thigh. One really cool thing about Live Notions patterns is that they include a full bust piece. So there is a full bust pattern piece. You don't have to do the modification yourself, which I think is really cool. The size range is extra small to 5X. I made an extra large. The full bust range is 33 to 57.5, although it does say to pick your size based on the high bust. Waist range is 26.5 to 49.5 inches, and hip range is 35.5 to 59.5. The cost is listed as $10, but every time I've looked at it, the $10 is struck through and it's $5. So I paid, well, $5, and then I also used a discount code from Whitney at Tomcat Stitchery for 10% off, so I paid $4.50. Her discount code does change, I think, quarterly or pretty regularly, so make sure you check her channel and her videos to know what the latest discount code is, or I know there's other content creators who also have discount codes. They're out there, basically. Don't pay $5 when you can pay $4.50. The format is PDF only, but it does have projector, A0, and print at home. It has layers, and it has no cut edges, so super easy to put together and get your size. It has a printing guide that is really well divided, so it tells you sleeve length options and then also size ranges. Recommended fabric, light to medium weight knit fabric such as jersey, rayon spandex, modal jersey, double brush poly, cotton jersey, cotton spandex. And it does talk about the fact that more stable knits such as cotton lycra may be used, but sizing down may be needed. So really, really good list of fabric options. The instructions are really good. I do find Live Notions patterns to be really good. This is the second pattern I've made from them. I really like that it has links for videos throughout. So if you do get to kind of a sticking point or you want to see some techniques, there's a video you can click on. And it does also have a little discussion in a text box about how fabric can impact your neck band, which it was the only pattern I noticed that talked about that. And it is really important. I used the V-neck piece they had and it was fine and it fit and everything. But I do think it's a good thing for them to bring up so that if you are struggling with your neckband or it's not working, you can think about if your fabric choice impacted that. And hem allowances are in the instructions. Now, I did make the V-neck and the elbow length sleeves. This is my first time doing a V-neck and I think it turned out generally really well. I'm pretty proud of it. I like the elbow length sleeves. I like that it has so many sleeve options and the length is pretty good. I might crop it a little bit, but I think that's just because I like more cropped shirts. But yeah, big fan of the V-neck. I will definitely be making more V-necks. I like a V-neck on me. I think I discovered that I don't like a scoop neck very much, but I like a V-neck. So, our last pattern is the Copper Creek Patterns Anything But Basic Tee. It used to be called the Do It Better Yourself Club, and now it has rebranded as Copper Creek Patterns. They have an anything but basic tee for women, men, and children. This is just a standard fit t-shirt. The neckline options are scoop, low crew, or high crew. Sleeve length options are short, elbow, 3/4 length, or long. But the only hem length option is one length, and it's pretty long, which I also found on the men's anything but basic shirt. I made that for my husband, and it's just really long, in my opinion. There are no other options. The size ranges are Mrs., which is a 00 to 20, and plus, which is 14 to 36. I made a size 16. The full bust range is 31 to 63 inches. Waist range is 24 to 59.75 inches. And the hip range is 34 to 67 inches. It is a free pattern, PDF only with at-home files and A0, so no projector. Has layers, has no cut edges, all that good stuff. Has a really good printing guide. And the recommended fabric is knit fabric that stretches from side to side by at least 50% and up down 30%. It also has a good discussion about recovery in knit fabrics. The instructions are really good. In terms of the assembly of the actual garment, they're basic, but it's a t-shirt. It's pretty basic. What I really like about these Copper Creek patterns, anything but basic t-shirts, is it has really, really good discussions about pattern modification and making it fit you. Their big thing seems to be you can make clothes that fit you. So it talks about grading between sizes, and it also has how to do like a full bust adjustment and things like that, which a lot of the other patterns, not all of them, but a lot of them did talk about like height adjustments or length adjustments, but didn't really go into anything beyond that. This one was very, very thorough, even going all the way through doing an FBA. It has video tutorials linked within the instructions. The only thing I didn't love about it was it has you put the neckband in after you've assembled the whole bodice. All of the other ones, if I remember correctly, have you do it either after you've done the shoulder seams or after you've done the shoulder seams and inserted the sleeves, but not put the sleeves in flat, but not done the side seam yet. And I like that better. It is just a little easier to work with putting the neckband in when you don't have the whole tube of shirt, basically. So, not a huge sticking point. I just did it in the order I preferred, but they do have you do the neckband almost last. I think they have you hem it last. The hem allowance is in the instructions, speaking of hemming. So, all good. The one I made is this cotton spandex striped. Now it is, like I said, it's just a really, really long shirt. I am going to crop it at some point. I did the neckband on the cross grain because the stretch was fine for me to do that, and I like how it turned out. I tried to do some good pattern matching, but I think, I did the high crew. So it does come up a little higher. I will probably turn this into a V-neck at some point. I think sooner rather than later I'm going to crop it because it's just a lot of stretch. That's like a convict. But I'm gonna crop it some, and then I do think at some point I will consider doing it as a V-neck because I really, really like that Love Notions V-neck and how the V-neck looks on me. But yeah, this is the Copper Creek Patterns Anything But Basic Women's Tee. I do want to wrap up this video by just talking about kind of all of them. I don't want to say in comparison to each other because they're all very different, but I do want to just do like a little wrap up. So in terms of largest size range is definitely the Ellie Mac Oversized Tee, hands down wins that, although some others are close. And like I said, the French Navy Stellan tee, they are working to expand the size range, which is really good. I will be making probably all of these except the Mandy Boat Tee again, and maybe not the Copper Creek Patterns Anything But Basic. It wasn't a bad pattern, it's a standard fit t-shirt, and I like the Love Notions classic tee better. I like the options better, I like the length better, so basically I have to make less modifications to get a shirt that I like. So I'll definitely be making that again. All of the rest I will also be making again. Maybe not Simplicity 9596. I have some other Big Four patterns that are similar in the fact that they just have a front and back. You're not setting in or sewing in any separate sleeve pieces. But I don't dislike it. There's not a hard and fast reason I wouldn't make it again. I just really feel like I don't need another one like that, particularly. But hey, maybe if it gets worn out, I will want to replace it in the future. There are as many t-shirt patterns out there as like pattern companies, at least, if not more. So I know there are a ton more out there. Drop down in the comments what your favorite t-shirt is and what you've made it out of, because one of the biggest takeaways for me that I knew in theory but hadn't seen come to fruition in practice, I guess, until I made all these, is how much fabric choice can impact it. And even if they say, two-way stretch with 50%, or, two-way or four-way stretch with 50%, that is just such a broad description of what fabric to use. So the exact makeup and fabrication of what you choose really, really does matter. And there are quite a few of these that I want to make again in a more stable, less drapey knit in the future. That does it for this video. I hope you got a lot of good information out of this. I hope you enjoyed seeing all of these t-shirts, and I hope in the future when you are looking to make a t-shirt, you can remember this video and come back to reference it and hopefully get some information that you want or need. I need to go pull out all of my old t-shirts and put them in the donation pile because it is time for them to get a new life. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys on Friday for #FridaySews. And if this was your first time watching my channel, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button and definitely hit that subscribe button if you want to see more from me in the future. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Bye.